The family I babysit for has a safe room in the basement, and last week we had to use it. I started babysitting for the Caldwell family in September after answering an ad that paid almost double what other families offered. The posting was oddly specific. Background check mandatory, 3 references, CPR certified, available for emergency overnight stays with less than an hour notice. When I met Catherine Caldwell, she spent 30 minutes asking questions that had nothing to do with childcare. How did I handle high-pressure situations? Had I ever had to make a split-second decision that affected someone's safety? I wondered what kind of household needed a babysitter with crisis management skills. Catherine explained that her husband Dominic worked in financial consulting and traveled frequently. They had 2 kids, 10-year-old Finn and 7-year-old Iris. The family had moved to the area 6 months ago. Catherine worked from home doing something vague with data analysis. Everything sounded normal until she mentioned the house had unusual security features I'd need to learn. She said it casually, but something in her tone made my stomach tighten. She said we'd go over everything during my first day. The Caldwell house looked completely ordinary from the outside, but when Catherine gave me the tour, I started noticing things that weren't normal. Every window had sensors, cameras in every room except bathrooms and bedrooms. The doors had biometric locks requiring fingerprint scans. Catherine programmed mine into the system while explaining only 4 people had access. The kids didn't have access codes, which seemed strange. Finn and Iris were quiet kids who seemed older than their ages. Both were polite almost to a fault. On that first afternoon, everything felt normal until Iris knocked over her juice and immediately burst into tears, apologizing over and over like she'd committed a serious crime. I told her accidents happened, but she kept apologizing until Finn whispered something to her. Both kids were extremely careful about not making messes after that. At the end of that first day, Catherine said there was one more thing she needed to show me. She led me down to the basement and walked to what looked like a regular wall panel. She pressed her palm against it and a hidden door clicked open, revealing a small room. Inside were 2 twin beds, shelves stocked with water and non-perishable food, a first aid kit, and a landline phone mounted on the wall. There was a tablet showing camera feeds and a heavy deadbolt on the inside. Catherine said this was the safe room, and if I ever needed to use it, I should take the kids down here immediately and lock the door. The phone connected directly to a private security company, not 911. She made me practice opening the door 3 times. I asked what scenario would require a safe room, and Catherine's expression went carefully blank. She said they'd had security concerns at Dominic's previous job, but wouldn't provide details. She made me memorize the entry code and explained that if anything felt wrong, even if I couldn't articulate why, I should trust my instincts and take the kids to the basement. I left feeling unsettled, but telling myself some people were just extra cautious. Over the next few months, I fell into a routine. Monday through Thursday from 3 until 8, occasional weekends. The kids warmed up to me slowly. Finn loved astronomy. Iris was obsessed with marine biology. I never went back to the safe room after that first day, and after a while, I almost forgot it existed. Dominic came home from trips every few weeks. He was tall and thin with graying hair and a distracted air, polite but never chatty, usually disappearing into his office within minutes. The kids lit up when he was home, but he seemed uncomfortable with their attention. Catherine watched him constantly like she was monitoring his mood. One evening, I overheard them arguing. Catherine's voice was sharp, saying something about promises and timelines. Dominic said he was handling it. The Thursday, everything changed, started normal. I picked up the kids from school, we stopped at the library, got home around 4. I made them snacks while they did homework. Catherine was upstairs on a call. Everything was completely normal until around 5:30 when both kids suddenly went quiet and looked toward the front door. Then I heard it too, a car pulling into the driveway. Catherine wasn't expecting anyone and Dominic wasn't due home for another week. I walked to the window and saw a black SUV with tinted windows. 2 men in suits were getting out and something about the way they moved made my pulse quicken. The doorbell rang and I checked the camera feed. The 2 men were on the porch, both wearing sunglasses even though the sun was setting. One held up a badge to the camera and said they were federal agents needing to speak with Dominic Caldwell. My mouth went dry. I called up to Catherine and her office door opened immediately. She came down fast, looked at the feed, and her face went completely white. She grabbed my arm hard enough to bruise and said one word, basement. The rest of the story is on my channel or linked below.